Today's AskReddit post. Redditors who have gone were declared missing. What is your story? Oh boy, this is gonna be a good one. Let's get started. I left the abusive household I grew up in, leaving a note clearly stating my intentions to never return. An hour or two later I received a call from the police stating that I'd been declared missing. I explained to them my circumstances and they wished me well. Since I was of age, I was free. It'll be 3 years soon. Edit. Fixed a typo. Edit 2. Holy guacamole, there's so many of you. I woke up this morning to a whole lot of love and I'm so thankful for each and every one of you beautiful people. I was going to try and answer everyone individually, but I'm starting to realize that it's a bit of a momentous task, so I want to thank you all collectively for the awards and for sharing your own stories. I'm proud of those of you who took the necessary steps to secure your freedom and happiness. I know that it can get lonely in this big old world of ours. So if anybody needs a friend to chit chat with, my inbox is open. And seriously, thank you all again. My heart is fuzzy and warm today. How you doing? Are you living happy? Hope you good man. Good luck. I'm doing great. The first year on my own was a roller coaster. I made questionable decisions, slept on a lot of couches, drank way too much. Now I hold down a job that feeds me and pays the bills. I live by the beach. I'm falling back in love with all the things I once enjoyed doing. Life is good and it absolutely gets better. I'm glad I've stuck around. Happy for you. Keep that front and know that all the joy and all beautiful things are worth much more than that white flag. Drinking never makes it better. Happy you good. Thank you. Your kind words are appreciated. I was 8 and on vacation. Decided to go for a walk without telling anyone. Played all afternoon on the beach. Came at night. Out of the office. Boy, was everyone mad. Why did you stay out so long? Did you get lost? Because I was having tons of fun. I made the sand fortress and watched it fight with the coming tide. I did not get lost. I have always been good with my bearings. Lumfeo. That kind of stuff is why I can't handle kids and am in no way ready to raise one. I'm pretty sure even the most stable, confident, experienced parent would lose their shit at their 8yo just disappearing for half a day. When I was young, probably about 6 I think, my family went on vacation to Yosemite. We stayed in a small cabin at a campground. I met another kid who was a bit older than me, and we went exploring. Apparently we went a bit too far, and eventually ran into a bear cub. We just stood and stared at each other for a few minutes and went our separate ways. When I got back to the cabin, I found out that park rangers had been out looking for me because my parents had no idea where I was. For some reason they didn't think my bear story was as cool as I did. Can't guess why they didn't like the bear story. Obviously it's because they missed their chance to play with a baby bear. Also clearly they missed their chance to feed the mama bear who was surely not very far away from her cub. I ran away from home due to my alcoholic stepmom. My dad would always file a missing person report and cops would eventually find me and bring me home. At 15 I was homeless for 6 months and selling acid for food and a place to stay. It was still better than dealing with my stepmom. She drank herself to death and I found peace. Are you doing well right now? Yes. Thanks for asking. That was 20 something years ago. Good to hear. Not me but my hubby, and this was years ago. Hubby was about 8 or 9 years old when he and a group of boys were approached by some middle-aged Italians to sell candy. The kids were loaded into a van and taken to neighboring towns to hawk this candy. At some point the kids started asking when they were going home as the van was going further than they were expecting. A few kids started crying, then out comes a gun and they're told you're not going home. More tears and then the van stopped, I believe for a bathroom stop, but it was near an open field. A few of the kids decided to make a mad dash through this field, being chased by the men, and made it to a grocery store. The authorities were alerted and their parents came to collect the children. They were about an hour away from home when found. Hubby is 55 now and hyper vigilant about the grandkids and stranger danger. Which country was this? Sounds like he is very lucky to have survived being trafficked. United States, early 70s. Most prolific serial killers were from the 60s and 70s. It was a crazy time. As a paramedic, we once attended a call for a male with sore feet. Attended a lay-by by the side of a road to a perfectly polite chap who did have some very nasty blisters. He'd been to a family funeral, got a bit upset and had gone for a walk to clear his head, then just kept walking for 4 days. Turns out he was from the same area as where I grew up, about 250 miles away, and we reminisced about the countryside and some of the good pubs, etc. He admitted that maybe he was a bit depressed and probably needed some help. Unfortunately, all we could offer was a trip to hospital, but we did what we could. Later that shift, I'm perusing Facebook and see an old school friend has shared a missing person appeal. It's our walking patient. I rang the police and told them where our chap was, and they were very pleased, as they expected a dog walker to find him hanging somewhere. 250 miles? Exclamation point. My god. Well done for going above and beyond for him. Appreciate what you do. I believe he means he lived around 250 miles away from him as a child. Or I am stupid. He means they both grew up 250 miles away from where they were at that moment. I took my 3 children and did a flip to get away from their father who had attempted to kill me in front of them. I drove around 150 miles away. We were given a room in a woman's refuge in a coastal town. While the processing papers went through, the children asked to go to the beach. Even though it was November and cold, they were happily making sandcastles when I noticed a photographer. He kept directing the camera towards us, but casually tracked away when I looked up. I was worried that the photos could give away our location, so went to speak to him, but I couldn't catch up, so left it. I found out later that I had been reported as missing and a danger to the children by their father. We did not stay in the refuge long, as I never felt completely safe there after that. You okay now? I am okay. I live 150 miles away from where I consider home. Can't afford to return and won't until my now ex is dead. That's good. I finally found my way out of IKEA. I wanted to tell a joke about IKEA. I tried for hours, but I just couldn't put one together. I don't get it. I must be lost. Just follow the directions. How hard can it be? I went to rehab. I don't know why I didn't think to tell anyone, but I was a drug addict, so my brain was mush. My now ex-boyfriend was the only person who knew. About a week in, I got called into the main office at the rehab and was told that my mother got a hold of them, freaking out and telling them that I had been missing for a month. She was exaggerating, but they legally weren't allowed to tell her that I was there, so I had to call her to explain the situation. When I got out, I had messages from tons of people asking if I was alive, and found out even my old job was contacted. LOL. I found out that my best friend and my brother messaged my ex-BF, and he ignored them and never told me that they contacted him. If he had, I would have told him to tell them where I was and the whole thing could have been avoided. I felt really bad about the whole situation because it stressed a lot of people out. Ah well. Sometimes when you're on a bunch of drugs, you just need to get away and get clean. PP-Face69 is right. RM job Steve. I was a teen and ran away from home and was missing for a few weeks. Left my small town due to small town shit going on and was basically road tripping with a friend. Oh wow. How did your family react to you disappearing and then coming back? Not thrilled. I never lived at my mom's house again. The small town shit included small town criminal shit, so when I reappeared I went to juvie for a while, and when I got out I got on a plane and went to live permanently with my uncle. My mom and I had kind of a rough time for a while, but we're fine now. I'm glad it all came through towards the end. Thanks for the amusing tale. Yeah, I'm good at taking the difficult road, but luckily my family loves me. Not me, but a friend's ex. I know how it sounds. This girl was involved in a pretty bad abusive relationship. She tried to leave and suddenly disappeared. Months had passed and people began to assume the worst. Eventually she managed to escape her kidnapper and return home. The details are scarce, unfortunately, but it's best for her sake. My friend received a friend request from her on Facebook shortly after her return. She's now missing an eye, in a neck brace, and her head is bald and scarred from brain surgery. Poor girl was beaten so badly. Oh my gosh, that poor girl. My cousin was kidnapped when he was very young, maybe 4/5. My aunt was living in Belgium at the time. He was kidnapped and thrown in a car, witnessed by many people. Police were called. My poor aunt was frantic. He was left at the side of a road about 8 hours later, but to this day they never found out who took him, where they took him to, and what happened to him while he was gone. It's a taboo subject that I could never bring up to my aunt. Damn. And he's never opened up about it himself? Could be he doesn't remember very clearly, and didn't really understand what was happening at the time. Was playing hide and seek when I was 6. I hide. Nobody seek. Comma. My cousin went missing. Called the cops. Gave a statement and suddenly he appears. Everyone was very happy but still confused. Turns out he fell asleep under the sofa. The idiom right under your nose is changed to right under your sofa now. Ran away from a residential treatment center that wasn't giving me the care I needed and was threatening to send me to another RTC famous for their abusive tactics. I ended up being driven to a hospital by the police. After they talked with the staff at the RTC I ran from. Even they didn't think I should go to the infamously abusive one. Later on, the abusive one closed down. My auntie was missing for 15 years. She stopped answering calls, moved house and changed her number. I grew from age 3 to 18. I had 2 younger siblings she didn't know existed. One afternoon I answer the phone at my parents' house. My mum had never changed our phone number. I've already moved out but I'm visiting my dog. My family are away for the day. It's this aunt. I recognizes her voice from her reading me bedtime stories. She sounds so similar to my mum. I'm naturally freaking out about keeping her on the line, getting contact information, where she lives now, etc. Long story short, it's been 9 years. She is medicated for her schizophrenia and happy to be back in the family. I'm happy you welcomed her back. Red heart. I can't tell you. They haven't found me yet. Not yet. Check your back door. When I was a teenager, I got my stupid heart broken really bad. As a young and dumb teen, I skipped school and drank at a sketchy little bar not too far from school. Got shit-faced, lost track of time. Phone died. When my parents noticed that I didn't come home, they came to my school to ask if I was still there. When they were told that I didn't come to class that day, they thought I ran away from home. They were driving around looking for me and saw me drunk as shit puking my guts out on a sidewalk. Man, that was one hell of an ass whooping. I yeeted myself off a cliff. Why? I was a kid. Miraculously survived with only some bad scrapes and bruises. But my parents were shouting, and, well, you can't discipline what you can't find. LOL what? I ran off into the woods to hide from the consequences of my actions for a day. Unless you're asking about the cliff jumping, which was just an impulsive choice and I was a dumb kid without any fare. How tall was the cliff? I went on a hike and just disappeared from everyone I knew. One day I told my friends I was going on a hike and I just never showed up to work or my house again. After a couple of days I was declared missing and after a couple of months most people assumed I was dead. I hitchhiked across the US, Mexico and Canada for 2 years. I might get some hate for this, and I'm glad you are safe. But this type of missing person has to be the worst. The ones that walk away just because into the wilderness, and never let anyone know what happened to them. I feel bad for every person who searched, missed and cried over you for 2 years while you just roamed the land without a care. I don't know. These stories bug me. A waste of pain and resources for everyone. Yeah, I would actually be furious if I mourned someone for them to just show up 2 years later with a shit-eating grin and half-assed explanation. And pictures of a great vodka. When I was about 3 or 4 I fell asleep in my grandma's bed but because of the groove from her sleeping there over the years she couldn't tell. Grandma freaked out and filed missing persons report. The police came and it was assumed I had been taken from the house. Boy were they relieved when I stumbled out after my nap. My sister-in-law did that, only she had crawled under her grandma's bed and had gone to sleep. I also have twin sills. When they were little and shopping in town with mum, in their typical matching outfits, one climbed out of the pram. Mill was frantically going from store to store saying, "Have you seen a little girl? She looks just like this one." They has the police and my father-in-law searching for her, and eventually found her wandering around. 50 years later and my Mill still tells the story. Mayo like a living missing person poster. Not me, but my very good friend in grad school was out sailing off of Galveston, Texas with another friend. They were both drinking and lost control of their catamaran with a strong offshore breeze. The friend's wife first noticed and called me, then others. No one had seen them. Worried, she called the police, who called the Coast Guard. The next day they were discovered over 100 miles in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. It was later discovered both strong currents and wind pushed them out past what was presumed possible after missing for X hours. Both were severely dehydrated, delirious, and babbling about sharks. Both were rushed to local hospital. Total bill, $120K. Made the Houston Chronicle and they never lived it down. To this day they both are happy to be alive. Moral of the story, boating and drinking don't mix. Never turn your back on the ocean. The ocean. She's a mean old bitch. When I was 5 my mom left my cousin, 6, and I in the car to run into gas station. This was back in the 80s I should add. My mom's car had those back seats that folded down from inside the car. So I had a great idea to scare my mom, so my cousin and I climbed in the back and closed the seats. It was about 10 minutes later and no mom, so we popped out with smiles and saw a cop car and mom my crying. I was never allowed to stay in the car alone again after that. Hahaha. Sounds like valid criticism is hereditary in your family. I was 7 in Ocean City, Maryland. My dad took the kids for a huge cousin vacation without my mom for the first and last time ever. Being a very responsible 7-year-old I was tasked with washing the sand toys in the ocean water before we packed up. But I also had zero sense of direction and the beach was packed. I became turned around near the water and just started walking. And kept walking. I remembered being told not to talk to strangers, so I walked for 37 blocks until I found a lifeguard that looked familiar. Apparently I was missing and she knew exactly who I was when I told her I was lost. I guess not technically a missing person. When I was about 9 or 10 I was out skiing with one of my dad's friends and his son. We decided to meet at a particular lift line as it was the end of the day and the lifts were shutting. We must have miscommunicated and ended up down the bottom of a black diamond run. Once I got down to the bottom the lift had shut and the operators had left. I had skied the mountain since I was 4 so I knew how to get back. Although it would have taken hours to walk back. Lucky after about 30 of walking up the steep as shit hill with my skies I heard a bunch of police sleds out. Managed to wave them down in the pitch black and drop me back to our accommodation. My parents' mate came back white as a ghost thinking I was lost somewhere. Sorry Steve. Just remembered a story my friend told me. She and her family were at the mall. Somehow her youngest boy got separated from them. They contacted security and were just frantic looking for him. They were told to go home after a while and the police would contact them. They went home. Very upset of course, and to their surprise their son was there. Apparently after not finding them, he decided they forgot him, so he decided to walk home. A nice couple saw this little boy walking by himself next to a highway and realized something was wrong. They drove him home. I'm not sure if they waited with him. This was before cell phones as well. My uncle did this in the late 50s. He got separated from his parents in the supermarket and just decided to take himself home. He was 5 years old and it was several miles. But somehow he made it. When my grandparents gave up on searching in and around the market and drove home to wait for the police to call, he was sitting on the porch wondering what was taking them so long. Another story. Someone in my neighborhood was abducted from her bus stop last year. They found her phone in a drain grate. All her friends were freaking out, parents panicking, and other parents terrified that their kids may be next. Turns out, she had a secret 20-year-old boyfriend who she snuck away with, and they just had sex all day. Dude was arrested and nobody's really heard from the girl since. Bro, you actually watched the whole video. I'd give you a high five if I was a human. Make sure to click the like button and subscribe for more great content. See you next time.